By the time spring 2021 rolled around, I had been in Saudi Arabia for 2 full years, having to stay for the summer of 2020. And Nook had been there just about as long, getting away to Thailand just before the pandemic hit. And sure enough, we have fun and have activities, but the odd trip to Bahrain, whether for socialization or exercise or a little bit of enlightening tourism, only goes so far. And so when we got word that we were going to have a long summer break in 2021, again, we took that opportunity to plan a nice long road trip. And while I was in the process of planning this 9,000 mile tour across the country, I probably got a little ambitious with how far we were expected to go in such a short amount of time. I kind of forgot what a big country it was, but sure enough, travel in the summer is one of the few benefits of being a teacher on a tangible side. So I used Google Maps to plot out a course, and I underestimated the amount of time of driving we would have. So by day 6 there, when we crossed over into Alabama and then into Mississippi and caught the weather, and then across Mississippi into Louisiana, after a short stop at the courthouse, the capital steps of Mississippi, we had time for a few photos before we reached eastern Texas at Caddo Lake, which was a beautiful spot of these trees. I'm not quite sure the type, but they grew right out of the lake there. And we were getting into these camp spots kind of late, but just enough time to do a little hiking and sightseeing and cook something before we had to head out the next day for driving. So after Caddo Lake, we tripped across Texas through Dallas and across the plains there in central Texas and headed northwest towards Amarillo.
So many robots working there.
You got the wind turbines valve having the strain in it. Just up over the hill.
And as we marveled at the energy production capacity in Texas and the enormous landscapes, whether it's the wind turbines or the robots, as Nook likes to call them, pumping either water or oil, we made it across the hat of Texas, I like to call it, up into those plains where we saw farms that stretched as far as any Saudi desert or any landscape we've ever seen. These farms were incredible. And again, most of our sightseeing took place from the road, but packing all of this distance into such a short period of time, we were able to see the landscape change from northern woodlands through subtropical Florida, across Gulf shores, through Mississippi and into eastern Texas, where it was greener, so we got more rainfall, and then into northern Texas, where the landscape changed to more of a plains, suitable for pastures and grazing, of course, which Texas is famous for. And these flat, wide open spaces were incredible to see, even as the sun crept down and our hungry bellies grew tired of the road and ready for some kind of stationary activity at the next campsite, which we arrived at just before sunset in Caprock Canyons in western Texas.
Finally, we are right in the campground. Not at right yet, almost.
Again, in organizing this tour, I used Google Maps and National Park Service and other state park services to reserve campsites, and it was a good thing too, because these campsites in 2021, it seemed, after the pandemic, it was people were emerging from the pandemic and they were eager to get out into nature. We had a tough spot finding places to stay.
Wow, it's a beautiful lake. Love you, honey.
Love you too. Whoa!
Oh my God! Careful, honey.
It's a good thing I had reserved campsites because most of them were full when we arrived, and even some of the places I looked at were full, booked through the season or certainly months in advance. We were greeted by the local buffalo or bison, I'm still not quite sure what the difference is,
Beautiful.
herd there at Caprock Canyons, and it was quite a long drive still from the entrance into the canyon itself to our campsite. But it was a very pleasant, mellow mood as the sun set
Beautiful, honey.
on our way into the canyon. We were so taken by this new landscape, this very different geography than we had seen in the eastern United States, east of the Mississippi. Now getting into the scrublands and more high desert. It's really quite difficult to articulate the splendor and beauty across the desert as the sun sets. Even from the front seat of a vehicle which was a boss on the road, power at any speed. As we made our way into the canyons, past a couple of travelers coming out, and saw the safari scenes of the buffalo coming home. We were really grateful for the time that we had away from our at least temporary home and place of work, knowing of course that not too many people will ever see that much of the country, certainly not in such a short period of time. The national park system and state park system make this possible for just about everybody, so long as they have the time and a vehicle. So we arrived there in Caprock Canyons at our campsite, hungry, cooked dinner, and then set out the next day to do a little hiking. Again, witnessing the changes, the drastic difference in flora and fauna and geology and geography across the country. We knew by day 7 or 8 that we were really into something there. Very grateful, humbled by the natural beauty of the world around us, not needing to go into any live hotspots in cities, instead preferring to stay outdoors, away from what coronavirus could have threatened us, though as we moved from east to west across the country, the mask mandates started falling, and we felt like life was sort of back to normal. We were out there looking at everything that the country had to offer us. Taking Mom and Dad there for a quick tour around also. Made many stops to take photos with my in-laws, Sangthong's mother and father, Dee and Kajay. And then after Caprock Canyons, we again drove across West Texas and desolate towns into Bovina, which must have had 100,000 cattle, certainly 50,000, and the smell was something indescribable. Absolutely awful smell. The industrial food processing plant, which is pictured here, must have had piles of cow guts and things that they're unimaginably large. And we started taking video of it about halfway through, so we had the luck to turn around and go another mile or so past this enormous stretch of cattle processing and through the thick of that stench once again.
Taste it. Oh, I'm gonna go back through it again. Oh, it's awful. There's more. Look, there's more.
Oh my, look at that. You not believe it. That's all cow. but smell really good. Natural perfume. Okay, we're gonna pass again.
Go again.
Okay, we're gonna pass again. Thank you, honey. Anyway, thank you for slow down. I never see it like that before, so I'm so excited, you know.
Surely the sight like this is the reason that people have given up on meat and don't like the idea of commercial industrialized food, though I suppose the world has to eat. That said, this was a lot of beef and a smell that made the entire area completely uninhabitable.
Sorry. Thank you, by the
This town
way.
is named Bovina. It certainly is Bovina. Oh.
That said, it was an experience, and we were absolutely thrilled
Honey, do you think how many
to
cows?
be so lucky to smell Bovina, Texas.
Wow.
On our way out to New Mexico, Arizona, and beyond next.